Good morning. It's a Football Friday here on WGR. Bills and Eagles on Sunday. Talking more about it now with Sal Capaccio on the West Her Hotline. We had some football to get to from yesterday a little bit as well. Good morning, Sal. What'd you get for Christmas?
I got some dad stuff, right? Some clothes, right? A couple shirts. So that was
What's
pretty
funny?
cool.
You said dad stuff, and it's the first thing I thought of immediately. That means clothes, right?
Yeah, generally, that's clothes
or power tools of some sort.
Yeah, but that if I get power tools for Christmas, that's a hint that I need to start doing something in my life I normally don't do. I will tell you that. That doesn't go like that around here
right,
very
it's
well.
Not
you know
really
what I mean?
a gift. It's, hey, I need you to do this project, and here you go.
Yes.
This is your sign that you need to get going on it. Yeah.
That's exactly right. I also got it's like, what do you call it? It's like how do I say, a beard / goatee shaver ribbon. Like, so I guess it attaches, like you put it up on the mirror so it catches the shave clipping so you don't do it in the sink. You know what I mean? Instead of putting a towel there, it literally like attaches you like a bib.
Oh, okay. Shaving bib, kind of.
Yeah, like a shaving bib. Yes,
shaving
exactly
bib.
right. I mean, I'm sure that's not like something super new to people, but I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty cool because I'll trim my goatee. And I'm like, I have to find ways to make sure it's not like making a mess, in the sink or something.
Okay, I'm looking at a picture of this. Does it stay in form like what I'm looking at, where it's out in front of you and like lifts up, kind of?
Yes,
no,
basically, yes. Yes, that's exactly right.
I see, because in the picture it looks like it's floating, but you're saying it attaches to the.
Yeah, it attaches to something. That's correct.
I gotcha. Yeah,
there you go.
I think I need one of these. They're not that. Yeah. All right.
I know, right? That was a pretty cool gift.
All right,
yeah.
good. I'm glad I asked because it just inspired me to maybe make another purchase, which I didn't need in the holiday season. But here we are.
How about you? Did you get anything good?
Yeah, I did get one power tool, like an electric box cutter. Because we've had a lot of boxes around lately.
Yes.
So I got that. Everyone's buying me hats. I think they see me on the stream now wearing like a different hat every day. Like, oh, Joe loves hats. So I'm getting more hats, which I do like.
Caps, though, right? Caps, right? Caps and hats.
Yeah.
I learned the difference is the brim. A cap has a brim.
Okay, yeah, caps.
I just want to make sure, because hats are like winter hats now you could wear.
Yes. Got some golf stuff, so yeah. I got
Joe, actually, I have to tell you though, because I'm sitting here looking at it. My actual my biggest best kind of gift. Actually, I didn't even tell you because I got it on Black Friday.
Okay.
Because it was special. I got an electric drum set.
Oh.
It's awesome.
An electric drum set?
Oh yeah, it's amazing. And I miss playing. I'm a drummer. I played drums my whole life. And I used to have, and I've never really had a set. I mean, back in the day, I had one in Florida. I sold it before I moved back up.
Yeah.
And then several years ago, as Max was getting into school and he had to start playing an instrument, we said, okay, you can play the drums. So we got an electric drum set kind of for me and him, but it was smaller, so he could use it. Well, since then, he's kind of outgrown it, and I haven't had anything, and I kind of miss playing once in a while. So
yeah,
I said to Yana, I'd say, for Christmas, I think I'd really like to start playing drums again, and I'd love an electric drum set. So back on Black Friday, we actually found some deals, and I actually put it together that day. I've had it for a month. That's why I forgot to tell you. But that is actually the coolest gift. Like, it's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like, these things are great. You put on the headphones, and you can't hear anything in the house at all because they're mesh heads, and they're electric, and you're playing in your headphones.
Oh, wait, okay, so I was just going to ask, I'm ignorant to electric drum set, like what the sound difference is, or so there isn't a sound? Like you
Oh, yeah, there's a sound. Oh, yeah, you can make it sound however you want.
Right.
Like you can change the sound on the snare or the hi-hat or whatever, or the toms. You can, and then you also, it's programmed in. There's literally like an electric box that sits next to them. You could look it up and you can hit, and there's thousands of different like tunes that you can play with. You can record yourself, everything.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Yeah. I'll have to look that up.
And you can plug it into an amp, and it can play the sound like out, like so everybody can hear,
right.
Or you can just put it in your headphones so nobody can hear it, and you're hitting it, and literally people in the house have no idea you're playing the drums.
All right, you're gonna have a party and just play for everybody.
Yes, that's right.
That's what's gonna have to happen here. All right.
So there you go.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. Before we get to Bills-Eagles, Sal, the football yesterday, there weren't great games. I mean, a team won a game yesterday with 3 passing yards as a team. The Vikings somehow did that. Yeah. I think the story of yesterday, because we already knew the Chiefs were going to miss, I think the story of yesterday is the Lions finding a way to miss the playoffs this year. Like we've had this in the AFC with the Ravens and the Chiefs and the Bengals. How do you view the Lions season and like how that's happened? Because they've had a couple injuries, but like Goff's been healthy, Gibbs been healthy, St. Brown, Hutchinson's been playing great. Like they've got most of their guys, and they went from a Super Bowl contender to a 500 football team pretty quickly.
Yeah, they did. Even Yana said to me last night, she goes, "What happened to the Lions?" I'm like, "That's a good question, right? We're watching the game." And I said, it's what everybody's wondering. And I guess the first thing I would point to is they lost both coordinators and several other coaches from last year, right? I think that matters. Ben Johnson was a really excellent offensive coordinator, and Aaron Glenn did a great job on the defensive side. They both get head coaching jobs. You still have your guys, but then you have injuries. And remember, last year they were really able to overcome a lot of those injuries until the very end. And this year it kind of caught up with them, and they've had 2 years in a row now where they've had some pretty substantial injuries. And I think this time the injuries really caught up with them on the offensive line. Joe, they could not protect Goff, and he was under duress a lot. And even if he wasn't under, like getting sacked, it just felt like he had to get rid of the ball quickly. Pressure was terrible. He was terrible under pressure, I should say. I think the offensive line injuries really hampered them. I mean, I think back to that Steelers game. Actually, you know what yesterday did for me? Yesterday kind of said to me that maybe the Steelers' win against them wasn't as impressive as it originally looked when they did it last week, right? Because they just look like a shell of themselves. But I would start at the coordinators, Joe. I think losing those two coordinators really hurt that team.
Definitely. I agree with that. And I think the Ben Johnson part of that, I said this earlier, that I wonder what they do with the Dan Campbell decision to take over play calling duties, because it's not like he had a long history as a play caller. I think he'd only done it like once, very briefly, a few years back. And I feel like last night's game, part of that was Brian Flores versus Dan Campbell play calling. Like, it's just advantage Flores every time.
It's a great point. You're right. So I don't know what Dan Campbell's going to do this offseason, but they need to they need to reevaluate, because look, and Goff's not getting any younger, right? And you've had a few good years here with him, and now you start thinking, okay, he's not the most mobile quarterback in the world. Teams are heating him up. This is what happens. I was just disappointed their running game kind of shut down here over the last few weeks, and they just have not been the same team. I think the other story of yesterday was honestly, like, just from a macro level, Joe, like, I think the NFL would have flexed out of like every one of these games if it could have, to be honest with you.
100%. Yeah.
Right? Like they schedule these Christmas Day games, and it's great. They put these Christmas Day games on, and I mean, I say it's great because honestly, like, I don't care. I love watching football, and I know people have their issues with it. It's Christmas, all that kind of stuff going against the NBA, but I mean, it looked like on paper, at least, you'd have a chance for at least 2 out of the 3 games to really mean something, and then you get to it, and they pretty much mean nothing.
Oh, I'm sure, like, and maybe you'll bring this up next time you talk with Mike North, that when, like, this just kind of happens, right? Like, you schedule those 3 games, and if I saw those 3 games in May, I would have thought all of them were good, right? Like, Commanders were in the NFC Championship. Yep. The Cowboys are always competitive. Vikings and Lions are both contenders. And then you have the Chiefs-Broncos. The Chiefs are the Chiefs, right? And you get to this point, and 5 of the 6 teams were basically dead for the playoffs going into yesterday. Like, that's a crazy outcome that happened.
Did you see the stat about the Commanders on the, like, primetime and standalone games this year?
No, I might have missed that. What is it?
So this is from Al Galdi, who is host of a podcast in Washington, sports media personality. He writes, "We now are done with Washington's franchise record 8 standalone games for the 2025 regular season. In those 8 games this year, Joe, the Commanders went 0-8 with a point differential of -77. Oh. And then he wrote, bad. Sunday at 1 p.m., we miss you. We're going to see a lot of you again next year.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they're less hard to explain than Detroit. They just lost their quarterback, right? Like, they lose Jaden Daniels, and it's hard to come back from that, as most teams would struggle with. The one other thing, actually, maybe to get to about yesterday, Sal, and this could relate to the Bills a bit, is Denver. And I think if you're watching the Broncos this year, I looked earlier that they have 1-score wins. So they didn't lose to these teams, but we do this with the Bills a lot, right? Like, it's not just how did you win, it's how impressive did you look, and we just did that with the Cleveland game. And the Broncos have 1-score wins this year against the Titans, the Jets, the Raiders twice, and now the Chiefs with a third-string quarterback. Like, they are in the 1-seed spot at the moment, but I don't know if anybody really looks at them as this super terrifying matchup if you were to see them come postseason time.
Totally agree. I mean, if the Bills right now, if you knew they were going to play at Denver in the wild card round, what's the line in that game? What's the spread? Denver by 2, 1.5?
1.5. But I think Denver probably would have to be favored, but
I think so too.
Not by much.
And like these days, you don't give really 3 for home teams, so it's pretty much an even game, right? Neutral field would be like an even spread, maybe. I mean, even Bills could even be slightly favored. But the point is, I think you're right. Like, Denver is this team that you have to give them the respect for where they are, but I don't know. You're watching from the outside, going, okay, like, you got to go to Denver to win. I don't think that's insurmountable, right? Like, yeah. I think you can, and I mean, give them credit for. I do think that Sean Payton is doing a good job. Bo Nix, he is not, the last 2 weeks, like, he's not throwing the ball very accurately, by the way. And then he made a couple really incredible accurate throws overall. Like in a moment, he made a few. But like, getting him out in the move, having him run a little bit, like, that's been a big fix for them because he is not really great in the pocket lately.
No, right. Like, when he's on the move, he definitely looks more dangerous. If you use Ben Baldwin's market-derived team tiers, the Bills would be favored by 1 point in Denver in a playoff game if they were to play. So they could be favored. It wouldn't be much on either side, but we'll see if we get that. If Denver's the 1 seed, Bills could see them even in round 2 if we go that far forward, if Bills get Steelers, but we'll see. We've got this game to get to first, Sal, against the Philadelphia Eagles, and there is a little bit of stakes on both sides. The Bills might have a little bit more because the division isn't dead yet, and you have seeding on the line. The Eagles can really only go from 3 to 2. In terms of this game, though, we talked about it a little bit earlier in the week. Feels like one that could be a slow-played, low-scoring game just because how both these teams have played a lot of their games this year. Yeah,
and the Eagles' defense is playing really well. I mean, they've done a nice job over the last few weeks. I think I read something like they're one of the best defenses in the NFL over the last 6-7 weeks, actually, like since their bye. They come out of the bye, Joe. I mean, they've given up Green Bay 7, Detroit 9. They did have 24 and 24 back-to-back to Cowboys and Bears. I mean, nothing against the Raiders, nothing against Commanders. These aren't world-beating offenses necessarily, but they're holding teams down. And I think the Bills are, in for a fight, on that side of the ball, to move the ball, to score points. Apologize. Mm-hmm. So especially with the weather, if the weather is, anything that's really tough, to move the ball in a little bit, I think that's going to be tough for the Bills. But so this might be a low-scoring game. You're right. And on the other side, the Eagles' offense just simply has not been, I think, what we thought or saw last year going into the year, what we thought it could be. And for some reason, it just has been slowed down this year. So, yeah, I agree with you. And then you put Josh Allen's injury on top of it. How much are you going to, I'm not going to say put him in harm's way, but, expose him. You know what I mean? So I think that would be something you have to think about. And both teams are pretty banged up, by the way, when it comes to some injuries that they're managing. And I'm wondering how both teams kind of manage these injury situations with 2 weeks left. And, the Bills still have a look at the division. At least I think, you will know if New England wins, against the Jets, you'll know that. I don't know if that would matter how the Bills play because you got to play right after the game anyway, and inactives and all that. Yep. But I mean, it seems too unlikely the Bills can catch them at this point.
Right. And let's get to that. The Barnes Firm Injury Report brought to you by the Barnes Firm. Car crash for help. Call 1-800-8-million. You mentioned Allen. He's been listed as limited both of these Wednesday and Thursday, although they weren't on the field yesterday, so that's an estimation. So there's Allen, Sal, and then what else do you think sticks out really on their injury report from the first two listings that we get?
Well, we have 2 tight ends here who have not practiced this week. That is Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, both with knee injuries. And I will tell you, during the game on last Sunday, you could tell Dawson was laboring a little bit, and it had nothing to do, I think, with him dropping the pass. But, I don't think he was his full, complete self, but he did finish the game. So let's hope that, he's able to play. But we know Dalton Kincaid, Sean McDermott said, it's more injury management at this point with Dalton Kincaid. It's not something that's popping up, a new injury during the week. He did say in a minor setback. I think he meant a couple weeks ago when we talked about the knee and the hamstring all at once and how he was dealing with all that. So I think that's notable on the offensive side. And on the defensive side, Jordan Poyer, if he's out, how the Bills kind of play in the secondary is interesting because you have options there if you want to put Cam Lewis in. He went in for Jordan when he went out, and that's probably number one. But I could see Darnell Savage getting his first look. You got 2 weeks left here. Let's see what he brings to the table before you get to the playoffs, because you might need this guy in the playoffs at some point, considering where your depth is, where your roster is. So I'm interested to see how they play it in the secondary with Jordan Poyer out, possibly.
Are they at a point, you think, with Cam Lewis where they would be comfortable putting him as a full-time safety when isn't their depth in the nickel a little lesser because they don't have Jamarcus Ingram anymore?
Yeah, it's a great point, and I think that might depend on what you think about Darnell Savage. Like, can he?
Yeah,
he has played some nickel. Is he? I think at the end of the day, the Bills think Cam Lewis is their best option at nickel if Taron Johnson goes out, right? Mm-hmm. So when you say full-time safety, I mean, if it was long term, I'm not really sure. I think for a game here, like this week, you might say, look, we're going to put Cam at safety this week because Jordan's coming back next week. Let's get through this game. But if you knew you had to go into the playoffs, like, I think that they would just really prefer Cam Lewis to make sure he mans the nickel. Now, you could still do that by having him at full-time safety. Mm-hmm. And say if something happens to Taron, you're just coming down to the box, right? I mean, like, you could do that. The guy's been in the league long enough. He's like a 7-year vet. Yeah. He could do that. So I think you're going to see Cam Lewis on the field. I guess the best way to put it is, Joe, he's the next man up in either situation, I think, right now.
Right. And if you needed a next man up at both, you would probably expect that nickel would be over safety.
I think so, yeah. Okay. And, yeah, both guys went down. I think you put him there because I think you could go with Jordan Hancock at safety, obviously. I think Jordan Hancock, as much as when Jordan Hancock came in the league and we talked about him being kind of like a Cam Lewis, he's a nickel, he's a safety. I mean, they've kind of made it clear through the year that he's a safety. He really hasn't played nickel. He's a safety. Right. So to me, you would feel more comfortable with him at safety and Cam at nickel than you would at him at nickel and Cam at safety.
By the way, Cam Lewis and Taron Johnson were both listed on the injury report as limited both days, but
yeah, that's true too, right? I mean, you got both your nickels there. I mean, that's pretty. Yeah. There's a pretty lengthy list. The other one to watch this week, they didn't make a move at kicker. They brought guys in. They didn't sign anybody.
Yep.
So if Prater can't go, it's Badgley again. But we don't know if Prater can go right now.
Right, and he was listed as not practicing the first 2 days.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. The kicker rotation. We'll see. We'll see. I guess if Badgley is the guy again, and that one for me is just right now mostly about who's their kicker come playoff time, and if Prater is going to be ready to come back. But we'll see how that progresses. And the defensive tackle is a bit of a question right now, right, Sal? Because both Jones and Phillips are on the report. Sanders is back there full time though, so maybe they feel, I don't know. How do you think they feel at that position with all the injuries they've had? They've had him really all year at that position.
Yeah, and I wonder, Jordan Phillips had that ankle injury a couple weeks ago. They didn't put him on IR, but we'll see. Like, if he's able to go this week, you're right. That's one that they're dealing with, and now Daquan Jones dealing with the calf injury as well. I mean, I think because they have 6 on the active roster. Let's remember Ogunjobi was a healthy scratch last week, right? If I remember correctly.
Right.
Larry Ogunjobi was a healthy scratch. So, you put him back in. I think they feel pretty good about the depth they have there because they just have numbers, Joe. They have numbers right now, and right now they got to rely on those numbers. I've also been asked a lot about Matthew Judon and, what people think about his possibility to play. I'm excited to see, like, what he could do. I'm not really sure, but I will tell you, just from a Bills standpoint, McDermott did say, like, he's got to learn the system. And I know that he's been in systems, and people think, oh, just plug him in and tell him to go get the quarterback. Yeah, you could do that, but there are a lot of nuances that go along with playing. And if you're going to put the guy in the field, you have a missed assignment that could be, 6 points or something. So you got to be careful with that. But I'm interested to see if they do give Matthew Judon some run either this week or next week, just to see, if he can help out the defense and how they want to fit him in.
The other question, Sal, about this week is, I think, who is going to dress at receiver in terms of the roster on Sunday. And, man, especially if Knox and Kincaid are we'll see if they're at any threat to not play on Sunday. You'll have Sean McDermott on the Extra Point Show a little bit later on. We'll learn a lot from that. But in terms of guys that Allen really trusts right now, like, especially if your tight ends aren't available, like, you've got Shakir, and I just feel like, you're asking for somebody to step up and show that, they have the faith of the quarterback, the trust of the quarterback. And maybe that leads you to Gabe Davis. Maybe that leads you to somebody else. But, I mean, first we got to get to, I guess, who dresses at that position.
I mean, I was surprised last week. Both Davis and Coleman were down, because I think Gabe's kind of shown that he can come right back in and be a guy that Josh trusts. He's made a couple big plays on fourth downs, a couple fourth down catches since he's been back in the lineup. I wouldn't be surprised if he's back in the lineup again this week. This might be the kind of game where you need, there's going to be a, like you said, slow play, lower scoring game. You need a guy that's going to be on the field that can do a little bit of everything. That's Gabe Davis. Last week they went with a little bit more of a kind of a speed element in the passing game. Brandon Cooks is interesting for this because you say like trust. I don't know if Josh wouldn't trust Brandon Cooks, but he had a couple drops here. And Brandon Cooks needs to step up and show that he can help this passing game. It's been a couple of weeks now, and he's had a couple of tough plays, and that's got to change. I think Josh trusts Josh Palmer. I just don't think Josh Palmer's been available enough to get those reps, and there's not a lot happening right there right now. But man, you'd love to see that start clicking again a little bit. And then the rub is, Joe, like how they treat and what they think about Mecole Hardman as far as a receiver versus just a return man. You don't have to use another spot for a receiver by having him as a returner because he's there. But if you want to justify dressing 6 receivers, you could certainly do it because he's a return man. I think with all the other injuries they have, though, and other guys being inactive, that's tough to do right now.
Yeah. Sal Capaccio with us on the Western Hotlines. Bills and Eagles on Sunday. Do you have a thought, Sal, on Nick Sirianni at this point? He has a great record. He's won a Super Bowl. He's local, right? Jamestown product.
Yeah.
Does it feel like, though, he doesn't really have the reputation that most Super Bowl winning coaches would have? I don't know if that's because of the extracurricular stuff where he'll get into it with fans or what it is, but I don't know. Like, how good of a coach do you consider him to be, who the Bills will see on the other sidelines this week?
Yeah, I think Nick is a very interesting guy because he is very polarizing from that aspect, what you talk about, right? He's a guy that people, because of his personality, you can get very quickly to how much you love him or very quickly to he needs to go, right? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, not the right guy. And I think because he's in that media market, because he's in Philadelphia, they just eat you up. They eat you up, and it doesn't matter. You have no room for error there. And when Nick came in, remember the first press conference he ever had, it didn't go well, right? He was up in the podium, and I remember that. And he took a lot of heat. And, then he went in and he showed that he can run an organization. I think what I really like about coaches like Nick are, even in that pressure cooker, even with all of those personalities, he's able to win. I think there's something says something about that, Joe.
Yeah.
Right. I think there's something to be said about guys who can still win when you have to manage egos. You have to manage all of that's happening. And I think for that reason, I like Nick Sirianni. I do think, though, what you're saying is right. Like, we don't regard him as this incredible X's and O's type of coach. And, is somebody, oh, my God, I got to get Nick Sirianni on my staff because I got to help a young quarterback or, the offensive part of it. But he just seems to me like a guy that, for some reason and somehow in some way, to his credit, he's able to keep all of that, without bubbling over and still winning.
It's kind of amazing, too, that it feels like he does it in a way that maybe a lot of coaches wouldn't. I don't even know what I mean by that. All I know is that over the last couple of years, there have been stories about him and Jalen Hurts maybe not always getting along in the best way, and you've had is A.J. Brown happy, and he's reading books on the sidelines last year, and Big Dom's always running around on the field getting into it with players. Like, it feels like they almost live in this constant state of tension. But maybe that it works for them. I don't know. Maybe it'll implode at some point. But so far, it's kind of worked for them.
Maybe they need it. Right? Maybe that's how they function best because they have all of that. Right? It's a different city and it's a different type of environment when you're there. And they've won Super Bowls. Right? We know that. It's like we went shopping the other day on Christmas Eve during the afternoon. I had to go to the grocery store. And I said to Yana goes, it's going to be really busy. And I go, you know what, though? I kind of need the hustle and bustle of Christmas. I like that. I thrive on it. Seriously, I'm thinking that. I think about everybody shopping. I want to be a part of it, right? That's just a personality. It feels the same way what you're talking about with the Eagles and Nick Sirianni. Like, they kind of need that to be able to thrive.
Right. Some people thrive in that. Yeah. And, hey, listen, they've made it to 2 Super Bowls. They've won a Super Bowl. Yeah, the last thing on them, Sal, and I'll let you go here. I think the other reason that maybe he doesn't get full credit the way other Super Bowl winning coaches do is, I don't know, doesn't it feel like a lot of people know that their roster is so loaded that maybe that takes a little bit away from the coach?
Yeah, I think that's right. You know, I'm not comparing him to Phil Jackson. I'm not when I say this, okay? But I think that, you know, I remember back when like Phil Jackson was winning with Jordan and all that, and like it takes a special kind of personality to be able to coach superstars, you know, and to coach all those egos and people. And I think about that with what you just said. Yeah. Sometimes there's just so many good players that you overlook the coach. But I think you have to have the right coach to do that, though. You know what I mean? And I think that's right. I think Andy Reid's like that. Andy Reid's done a nice job. And I mean, you got Travis Kelce yelling at him on the sidelines, you know, and you got the greatest quarterback of the generation winning Super Bowls, arguably here. You know, we have Josh Allen here, but you know what I mean? Like, I do think that it takes a special coach to be able to manage all of that.
Yeah. I'm thinking of Steve Kerr right now for this because he's in it again where he's got to manage Draymond being like a crazy person, and he's had to do that for like 15 years at this point.
And still win, right? And still win.
Right. And like it happens all the time, but like you always got to, it's management. It's a management thing.
But look, I mean, what's going to happen at the end of the day is it doesn't matter if they don't advance. Right? I mean, It's Philadelphia. It's the Eagles. The standard's set. They're the Super Bowl champions.
And they're an organization where couldn't you see them after a couple years, even though like these guys have won Super Bowls? Like they did this with Doug Peterson. Like they're kind of cutthroat. Like Sirianni being let go within a couple of years would be nuts on any other team. And I feel like in Philadelphia, it's totally possible.
I totally agree with that. And
they're wild.
Yeah, I mean, right now, like what they're the 3. They could get to the 2. I wonder how they play it. By the way, they have a interesting injury report too. They have several guys. They have guys that are Lane Johnson still is in practice this week.
Do you see the AJ Brown listing for 2 days?
Yeah, that's right. Teeth. What is that?
He's missed 2 days of practice, and teeth was I think he had his wisdom teeth out, I guess.
Okay. Well, I expect him to practice then. I mean, play then. I mean, if that's the case, I would think he would play, right?
It would be crazy if he didn't. By having your wisdom teeth out, I mean, I can't imagine you wouldn't play. But anything's possible. So
Lane Johnson still hasn't practiced, and I kept hearing that he was coming back this week, but I guess that hasn't happened, or we don't know yet. Maybe he could. He's been out for a little while. Landon Dickerson, he's out, and well, that was with an illness. And then Nakobe Dean, when he hurt his hamstring last week, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I don't think he'll come to Buffalo and play. I don't think he'll play in Buffalo, but you never know. But so it looks like if you look at all 4 of these guys, Brown, Dean, Dickerson, Johnson, I bet you Brown and Dickerson definitely play, and Johnson still could.
Yep. We'll find out a lot more today on both sides. Sean McDermott today on the Extra Point Show?
Sean McDermott today at 11 o'clock hour on the Extra Point Show, and then weather check with Pat Hammer at 11:30, of course. So should be a little dicey weather, I believe, this week with some precipitation. Yep. So, you might want to tune into that. And I know people have people in for the holidays, and I know people who are, back in town with their family. They're going to the game. So make sure you tune into the Extra Point Show today to figure out how you want to dress for it.
Hopefully it's not raining, but yeah, definitely stay tuned a little bit later on. Thank you, Sal.
You got it.
Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. When we come back, Chris Brown joins the show, get his thoughts on this matchup, all that's going on in Philadelphia. They're a crazy team to cover, and that's the Bills' opponent coming up on Sunday, which will probably be a rainy stadium, but we'll see. It's Joe DiBiase, Jeremy and Joe. Jeremy is off today. Happy holidays, and this is WGR.